If you're an e-commerce brand just getting started or already have an established e-commerce brand but have not spent on paid media, then a lot of times you're going to have this question: how much should I spend on paid media for my e-commerce brand? So with that being said, let me jump right in. The number one question that I get from startups: what should my budget be for paid media? And most startups want to start with a low budget. Around $1,000 a month is typically what I've heard, and sometimes they say $500 a month, which is understandable since they are just getting started. However, the approach leads to disappointing results and wasted investment. So let me break down the numbers and realistic expectations for effective paid media campaigns. So common startup budget reality. All right, so $1,000 is what they usually want to spend, and expect returns within a couple days or even a week of just spending this $1,000 budget. But a lot of times they're not going to see any results from that small budget. So why is this budget so challenging? Because typical CPMs are between $15 to $45, and that really depends on the industry you're in. If you're like in the supplement niche, then you are definitely going to be seeing CPMs over 40 up to 60. And yeah, that could go lower depending on how effective your creative is and if it's getting a lot of engagement. And before you get to that point, you have to do a lot of testing. So a $1,000 budget only allows for approximately 20 to 60,000 impressions per month. And it sounds a lot, but in reality, it's not for proper testing and eventually optimizing those campaigns. If we want to get to testing significance faster, and we require a lot more than 60,000 impressions. So the reality is that effective paid media campaigns require sufficient budget to scale, and we need to test multiple variables simultaneously. So the gap between $1,000 and the reality, which is typically between $3,000 to $5,000, often leads to disappointment when smaller budgets fail to deliver meaningful results. So here's some industry experience overview. I used to work with a company called Maple, where they connect a e-commerce brand with a freelancer, and I just wanted to go over what they recommend after working with thousands of e-commerce brands. So Maple requires a minimum ad spend of $5,000 per month and recommends a 3-month commitment to build scalable campaigns. They experience like diverse clients across multiple industries. So it's not just e-commerce, it could be SaaS, it could be accountants, doctors, etc. And it ranges from $1,000 a month up to $50,000 a month, with the most successful campaign starting at $3,000 a month. At a boutique agency such as Profit Pulse Media, where we specialize in e-commerce brands, we often recommend a $3,000 minimum for ad spend to ensure campaigns have sufficient budget for testing and optimization. Now, a little bit more into like Maple. So yes, they recommend at least $5,000, at least 3 months commitment. So that is about $15,000 commitment to paid media. That is what they recommend. And, they say that for 3 months, they see an average of 30% improvement in ROAS compared to those with smaller budgets. Now, with the marketing agency, industry vary, e-commerce, SaaS, accountants, etc. Some will require higher minimum budgets and some will require lower minimum budgets. But, there's flexibility in the budget, because typically with agencies, let's just say the brand commits to $1,000 a month for paid media. They are typically also committing to other services, because these bigger agencies, they do SEO, they do email marketing, they do organic social media. So they're providing other services to get traffic apart from paid media. So, so clients who invest $5,000 a month consistently achieve better ROAS, and they eventually lower their CPAs due to a lot of testing and optimization opportunities, along with other services that they could be getting as well for traffic. All right, so the boutique agency focus, which is what we do here, specialize in e-commerce brands. Like I said, we do have a minimum of $3,000 per month threshold to really test, the messaging, images versus videos, headlines, different angles. There's just so much that needs to be tested when it comes to paid media. And I'm more talking about like Meta ads, but of course Google ads requires testing as well. So clients who started with budgets below $3,000 a month and later increased to $3,000 to $5,000 saw an average ROAS improvement of over 40% within the first 60 days due to better testing capability. So more budget is required to get these faster optimizations and to get better results. Because if you were to start with a lower budget, it could take like a year before we see significant improvement. So recommended budget typically would be between $3,000 to $5,000 a month is a sweet spot to create scalable campaigns with positive ROAS. So the budget impact on ROAS. So campaigns with budgets below 2,000 typically show negative ROAS or 0.3 to 0.8 due to insufficient testing, like I mentioned before. Now, the optimization timeline with proper budget allocation, expect to reach break-even ROAS within 4 to 6 weeks and profitable within 8 to 12 weeks. But of course, this requires an understanding of your numbers and depending on how much you know your customers. We do a lot of the research. But yeah, there's some factors that come into play. I'm just going based on averages that we've seen. And then for the starting budget, typically you want to do twice the average order value. So if your average order value is 50, start with $100 a day budget, which is about $3,000 a month. And then the budget floor, even with a low AOV of under $25, you still want to maintain a minimum of $3,000 per month to test. As campaigns mature and ROAS improves, gradually increase budget beyond the 2x AOV formula. So why this budget works, right? So it's creative testing, it's message testing, it's landing page testing, and then just overall having statistical confidence that the ad performs well. And if you want to know more about our methodologies when it comes to testing, I have more videos in the channel. Thanks for watching.